What is your relationship with time? Are you wired and tired, stressed and overwhelmed, busy and going nowhere? Or just want to scale your business? Welcome to Take Back Time with your host, Penny Zenker. Penny focuses on books, strategies, tools, and tips to help you work smarter and approach your time more strategically. As a result, you can have more energy, focus, and get more done in less time. Be more efficient and effective. Get ready to take back time.
Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your host. And on this show, we are looking to help you be smarter about the way that you do things, and really at the end of the day, be able to be more productive and really more focused and to reach your goals faster. So I always have some great guests on the show, and today is no exception. So let me tell you something about Barbara. She is the founder of the ProductiveEnvironmentInstitute, and she has helped thousands of business owners and professionals to decrease anxiety and overwhelm due to clutter without having to scan or throw everything away, which is what we're afraid of, is letting go of the stuff that we have and that we want. She's really passionate about helping people eliminate physical, digital, emotional, and spiritual clutter that prevents us from accomplishing the work and really enjoying our lives better. So her career is spanning over 40 years. She's not really that old, so she's faking it here. Cutting edge of this growing industry. She's appeared on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Reader's Digest, USA Today, Kiplinger's Personal Finance, the New York Times, and this list goes on and on. So she's also a past president of the National Association of Professional Organizers and a winner of the Founders Award and a two-time winner of the President's Award. So Barbara is very accomplished, and she's going to help us to deal with the clutter that's in our way and what stands between us and the goals that we want and the joy and the balance that we want to have in our lives. So Barbara, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Penny.
I believe that it's so important to deal with what's in our way. Like, so many people want to give us new strategies and new things to do, but they're not really dealing with helping us with what's in the way and why we don't do what we know.
They actually become clutter.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me first, how did you become so passionate about clutter?
Well, it started a long time ago. I am 72 years old. So
Get out.
Yes, I am. This is a long path. I moved to New York City from India with my first husband, where we had adopted 3 orphan children, one of whom had special needs. My husband worked for a nonprofit organization that didn't make enough to pay for living in New York. So I decided that I needed to contribute to the family income, but I wanted my children to be first. And I decided the best way to do that was to find a problem in the world that I could solve that people would pay me for. And I would be on the playground with my children, and I would hear about people talk about managing their time, their space, and their information. And so I took $7 out of the grocery money, which was a big deal because I used to walk 20 blocks because I didn't have 50 cents for the bus. And it said, disorganized, I organize closets, files, kitchens, you name it, call Barbara Hemphill.
That launched that business. Sorry, I get curious, so I have to interrupt with a question here. So how did you know that this was something that you were good at? Like, were you super organized at home, or what made this the thing that you decided to do?
Well, I have to give complete credit to my parents. I am not a naturally organized person. I was diagnosed with ADHD. I'm trained as a musician. I'm an artist. I'm very right-brained. I love
it. Almost doesn't fit.
I know, that's right. Well, but that's why I'm good at what I do, because I don't look at other people's messes and say, how did you do that? I know exactly how they did it. Because if it were not for my own systems, I do practice what I preach. So it's not a case of where I don't do it, I do it. I mean, people can come to my home and office anytime. Now, having said that, I will tell people over and over, if you came into my home or my office unannounced, you might look around and say, they pay you money for organizing? Because I'm not naturally neat. But the difference between me and my clients is if you give me a maximum of 30 minutes, everything will be put away, and it will be put away in the right place. It won't be stuffed somewhere to be hidden. It's all about systems. That's what my whole passion is about, helping people create systems. I use the acronym. I have consultants all around the world, and one was from South Africa, and he came up with the acronym for system, which I love: saving you space, time, energy, and money.
Love it.
Every time there's something you have to repeat, whether it's your laundry or responding to an email that people ask you all the time, you need to have a system for it. And so that's what we're all about. And I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. My father was a dairy farmer, so there were systems for planting and cattle breeding and things like that. And my mother was the administrator to the president of a bank for 46 years, the same bank, the same man. And she used to show me what she was doing. And in our home, it wasn't always neat, but there were systems. There were ways that we did things. And we always, when I say we, I keep referring to we because I just have this team of certified productive environment specialists. And we always say there's 4 questions that you answer to determine whether something is organized. One is, does it work? So this applies to your calendar, your laundry, your life, whatever.
Everything. Absolutely.
Number 1, does it work? Number 2, do you like it? Sometimes something works. I think about the CFO of a movie production company.
Yeah.
And he said, my desk and office works, but I don't like it because I would like to have a completely clean desk, but every time I clean it off, I can't find things again. So in his case, it worked, but he didn't like it. We fixed that. We put in our finding system, and he said, for as long as I can remember, I've come in one Saturday a month to clean up my office, and I'm never going to have to do that again.
That's awesome.
The third question is, does it work for the people it impacts? So that's your family members, the people you care about in a company. If you are an employee, the information that you're organizing does not belong to you. It belongs to the company. And it is your responsibility to organize it in such a way that if you were not there, somebody else could find it.
Right.
If you own a company, then you're going to have a very hard time having an assistant or having a team because if they can't figure out what they want. So does it work for the other people it impacts? And then the fourth one relates to what we've already talked about, which is, can you recover quickly? It doesn't mean you're going to be a neat freak. I've told my husband 1,000,000 times, I wish there were a pill I could take that would make me neat, but I'm not neat. But I can recover quickly. And I tell everybody, you need to have an idea of what level of clutter you're willing to live with and how long you're willing to fix the problem. So in my case, it's once a week. For me, every Friday afternoon, assuming I'm in town, if I'm not, we adapt it. But every Friday afternoon, everything in the office gets put away. And it has to take me less than 30 minutes to do it. So if it does, then if I can't do it in 30 minutes, it means that there's something wrong with the system. Something has gone wrong and I have to go back and fix it.
Gotcha.
I had a client who said...
Before you go on, can I just stop you there? It's awesome. Everything you've said is great. And I want to highlight a couple things and I want to talk about them. So remember where you were with a client who said, and I want to highlight to people who are listening, because they may say, systems, I hate systems, or systems feel restrictive, right? Systems are what make things work. And what I love is that you said you weren't like, that's not your natural way, right? So what is it that people who might be having some resistance to this, right? What could you say to them to get started and to just accept that systems will make things easier for them and will help it to work? How would you break through any resistance?
Well, James Clear said it better than anybody ever known. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits, which if you haven't read, it's
a great book.
It's a great book. And he said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Interesting. That's funny. I say something around thinking. So that's really funny that you fall to the level of your thinking. You don't rise.
Well, yeah, okay. They're both true. It is your thinking which helps you develop the system that you need. So,
well, they're thinking systems, right? There's a system there too. So it's a thinking system that we get into a pattern of the way that we think. So everything is really system. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still in resistance. Like, help me. Yeah, I hear you saying that, but there's so many people out there who've got those yeah buts, right?
The issue is, I think the most difficult thing in our business, and Penny, I'm sure it's true in yours too, is that you want things for people more than they want it for themselves.
Mm.
And there are some people who are simply not willing to change or not willing to be helped. And as the old saying goes, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So if you're happy with your life, then keep right on doing it that way. But if in fact you have a dream, and that's really the key thing.
Distractions are the enemy of productivity. Go to distractionquiz.com and find out your distraction profile. Are you a time zombie or a hamster? Take this free distraction quiz today to rate your ability to focus on what keeps you from being a wizard. Go to distractionquiz.com.
Entrepreneurs are some of the most disorganized people in the world.
Well, they get a lot on their plate, right?
That's right. They're idea people. I mean, that's what makes them. They have big ideas and they meet people all the time and things like that. And so they're terrible about it. I wrote an article that was published in a whole bunch of places called "A Messy Desk Hurts Your Leadership."
Yes.
Because when you're a leader and your desk or your office looks like a bomb went off in it, people look at it and say, "Hey, man, you can't even organize your office. What makes you think you can organize a company?" That's right.
Doesn't leave you with very much confidence, does it?
That's exactly right. So it really is a matter of, if someone says they can't get organized, that's a lie. What it really says is their vision, their why is not big enough.
Right. They don't want it bad enough. They don't want their goal bad enough to be able to do what it takes to get there.
That's right. Organizing in and of itself has no value. And there are people, they spend their whole lives organizing. They spend their whole lives creating systems and reorganizing things.
It has to be balanced, right?
Never get anything done. So organizing in and of itself has no value. It is simply a tool, a system to help you accomplish your work and enjoy your life.
Absolutely.
So if your why is big enough, then we'll always, that's why after 40 years for me, it's still fun, because if your why is big enough, there's always a way to get what you want. And that's what I call the art of organizing. I don't cram people into boxes. People will say, like, I got a client recently that I worked with, one of my consultants in a training program. And this client had hired 3 organizers in 2 states and paid almost $10,000 and said, I'm worse off than I was before. And so she wasn't going to hire us because, and I got her to test it out. One of the things we will often do is we'll say, let's work for you an hour. We won't charge anything for you. Just experience this for an hour. If you like it, fine. If you don't, we'll say goodbye. Well, we worked for her for an hour and she was very happy. And I said, can you tell me what's different about what we did than what the others did? She said 2 things. One was, you helped me understand that something I never knew in the 40 years that I've been struggling with this, which is clutter is postponed decisions. So the reason I have these piles everywhere and the reason my computer desktop has so many icons in it is because I don't make decisions. I just never made that connection. That's what my business has been based on. I learned it from clothes closets. Clothes closets fill up because you haven't decided whether you're going to lose the 10 pounds you need to lose to get into that favorite food, or the exercise equipment that looked great on Home Shopping Network, or the candlesticks you got from Aunt Sally and you love Aunt Sally, but the candlesticks really aren't your style. But if she came for Thanksgiving dinner, she'd love to see them on the table.
Right.
That was the one thing. And the second thing was, she said, you didn't tell me what I should do. You asked me, what are you willing to do? So if your why is big enough, then all we have to do to get organized is figure out what you're willing to do. So let me go back to the one where you said, remember this. Okay.
Yes.
I had another client who called because he was a solo entrepreneur. His wife had relegated him to the basement corner because his stuff was all over the place and she didn't want it to mess up the house, which kind of got him depressed because he was down there and he didn't like cleaning up the clutter because it was kind of boring and he had more interesting things to do. But when he finally understood that the clutter was depressing him, that was really depressing him, and that we could put a system in place, which we did, So then I followed up with him, but he still wasn't doing it. And so then we said, okay, what level of clutter are you willing to work with, and how long are you willing to clean it up? And what we came up with was, it was really every day. He needed to clean it up every day because the clutter really, really drug him down.
Right.
And he concluded, and of course, you know, Penny, that when your client figures out what to do, that's the best thing.
The way it has to be.
That's right. He figured out that if he did it first thing in the morning, if he went into his office first thing in the morning, cleaned up all the clutter, it took less than 5 minutes. And then he felt good because, like, was it Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog?
Eat That Frog, yeah.
Or something like that. So he realized then that this was something he hated doing. It took less than 5 minutes. And if he did it first thing in the morning, it got his day off to a great start.
Done. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the key, is for people who are out there and they recognize that they've got clutter that needs to be cleaned up is those are great questions. Is what are you willing to invest in terms of time, right? How important it is to you. You said something earlier about what are you willing to live with, right? And tolerating things, right? Tolerating distraction, clutter is a distraction, right? As well, is a big problem. So how do you deal with that in terms of the fact that we tolerate more than we need to and more than we should?
Well, we have a 5-step process that we use that we call the productive environment process. Okay, so we define a productive environment as an intentional setting, so in which you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. So we have this 5-step process. So if you are trying to fix anything, whether it's I'm tired of the clutter on the kitchen counter when I go to cook the food at night, I can't do it because there's papers all over that's one. Or I don't like my job, or I don't like my life, or whatever. Use 5 steps. And the first one is state your vision. So we always have to know, again, it goes back to the why. What is it that you wish were different that you're putting up with, to use you're tolerating something? What is it?
I love that. Before you go on, and you've got so much great material, but I do like to discuss it a little bit. The reason that people need to think about that even more, that question about their vision, and you mentioned it a couple times about the why, is it's so easy when you get caught up in the day-to-day to get disconnected. And so it really reconnects you back with what's important. And I believe that we need to do that on a regular basis. So I love that the process starts with really getting them in the habit of connecting with that.
To say about that vision, unfortunately, there are people, and a large number of people, unfortunately, who really don't know what their vision is. But the interesting thing is, it is the clutter that is preventing them from seeing their vision. So oftentimes, we will work with somebody and they're not sure. They can't say what their vision is. And so I tell a story where I learned this. I was married the first time for 14 years, and suddenly my husband decided to divorce me. I was devastated. No one in my family had ever been divorced. We had these 3 adopted children. I just started my business. I thought I was going to die. I vacillated between thinking I was going to die and wishing I could. I mean, it was just awful. And I sat in a counselor's office, and she said, okay, Barbara, you have a blank slate. What do you want? And I said, I really don't know. I said I was Mrs. Tom, and I expected to be Mrs. Tom for 5 decades at least, and I really don't know. And she made a statement that changed my life and that I use with all of my clients. She said, let's start with what you don't want.
Right.
Which is clutter. And a lot of people don't deal with the whole issue because there are some things they don't know how to deal with. So then they don't deal with any of it. Rather than saying, okay, let's start with what I know I don't want. And I have seen it happen hundreds of times when people start saying, well, I don't know what I do want, but I know I don't want that.
Right.
And then it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You peel it off, and guess what? Voila, your vision appears.
Right, right. It's interesting, isn't it, how it's all connected? I can tell you that when I get emotionally uncertain or cluttered, I clean my physical space, right? Because it's something I can be certain about. And so it's interesting. It really is all connected. So share with us the other 5 steps, because we're going to need to wrap up our show. I'm sure you've got so much more content, and then we can drive people to where they can find out more about you.
Right. First is state your vision. The second step is identify your obstacles. The third step is commit your resources. The fourth step is design and execute your plan. And the fifth step, which is the one where most people fail, is sustain your success.
Right.
Notice the common word in all of those is your. It is all about you, your dreams, your hopes, your vision. What will you do? And everything that you say, think, or feel about an issue that you want to get organized is in one of those 5 things. It's either part of the vision, it's an obstacle that either you're afraid of or that you already have. You tried it, it didn't work. It's a resource. It may be a resource that you need or a resource that you have that you're not utilizing. And the fourth step is the most important. That's 80% of it. Design and execute your plan. In order to reach this vision, overcoming these obstacles with these resources, here's the plan. Most people start organizing before they've done the other stuff, and therefore they just keep doing the same things over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and that's why it's not sustainable.
That's right. And then that takes us to the fifth one, which is sustainable is the most important. And if you can't sustain it, so you go back to those 4 questions. Does it work? Do I like it? Does it work for the other people it impacts? And can I recover quickly? And you ask that about every 6 months. Because in our society, something that worked 6 months ago may be wrong, may not be working this one. And it doesn't mean it was wrong before. It just means things have changed.
Absolutely. And that is so important, right? Is that aspect of flexibility and to constantly check in and see if it's working. So that's great. I think that's the key to productivity in general, is to constantly step back and see what's working and be able to readapt and reset priorities.
You are so right.
So before we cut out, I did notice in my show notes here that you had a tip for us on email and how to deal with sort of the growing problem of people like, I got 5,000 emails in my inbox. So what's your tip around that?
And it applies to email or it applies to physical mail. It's exactly the same. And the tip is today's mail is tomorrow's pile or tomorrow's filled inbox.
Right.
So whenever we go to work with someone, research shows that 80% of what we keep, we never use anyway. So most people, when they try to organize something, they just start throwing things away, which means they're never done. Because when they're throwing it away, there's new stuff coming in. So we go in, we say, we're going to ignore what you did in the past. We're going to put a system in place to stop the problem. We're going to figure out a system to manage your email. We're going to figure out a system to manage your physical papers. Mm-hmm. Get it? And then we've stopped the problem. Then you can go back and deal with the other. So today's mail is tomorrow's pile. So figure out what to do with today's.
I totally agree. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense to go back into the past to try to resort out everything. You just put it all in a folder, and if for some reason you need it, then you can use the search function and figure it out. But stop the bleeding first, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's great. Well, Barbara, tell us where people can get a hold of you. You've brought so many great nuggets here in this show, and we want them to be able to get access to you.
Well, there are 2 places that people can go. One is you can go to ProductiveEnvironment.com, and that's got all of our information there, and it has a scorecard that you could fill out that you can rate yourself. You can't change what you don't measure, so it's a good way for you to measure where you are in your own productivity. So that's ProductiveEnvironment.com. And then if you have papers, physical papers in your life, in your personal life or in your professional life, maybe it's just papers current that don't have a system for. Maybe it's old papers. Maybe you're scanning most everything now, but you still have a bunch of old stuff and you're not sure what to do with it. We have a fabulous activity that we do called Tame Your Paper Tiger. You go to tameyourpapertiger.com. It's a virtual, hands-on webinar. We use Zoom, and you come to the event with a pile of papers or a pile of files or something like that. And then we teach you how to make the decisions. And then we give you some time to actually do it on the webinar. And we're there to ask you questions. And just to tell you how well it works, the last one we did, only one person dropped off. The rest of them stayed the entire time. The majority of them stayed an extra 30 minutes because they were physically throwing out paper and wanting to ask questions. So it really works. So if you have paper you want to get rid of, go to tameyourpapertiger.com.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for being here and bringing your expertise.
You're welcome, honey.
It matters when you're trying to solve a problem is to work with the right experts. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all. You've got some great resources to help to declutter. And we only talked about the physical aspect. There's also emotional and spiritual and all that good stuff. But we got to start somewhere, right? So thank you for being here, and make sure you check out Barbara's resources. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Today's topic is another opportunity for you to put the knowledge you learned into practice. Tune in again next week for more strategies that will help you have more energy and focus to get more done in less time, so you can continue to take back time.